live in Memphis, Tennessee, and I am on the Chronological Bible Teaching Board. We have a lot of questions that are posed to us at the ministry, but one of the ones that we get most frequently is, how do I begin a chronological Bible teaching group? So there's really no magical way to do it. It's very simple, and it takes the form that a lot of Bible studies do as you begin a group. But there's a couple things that I want to point out that are different about the chronological Bible teaching materials from other Bible studies. So the first thing that I consider when I start a group is always prayer, and just taking the time to pray and ask God to bring people into my life who would be interested to hear my testimony, also be willing to take the time and the attention that is needed to study through the Bible chronologically. So I wait for that, and I take my time to try and get that group assembled, putting the ownership back on the group members to invite other people. After I spend some time in prayer and God has brought those people to me, then we begin. And the first thing that I consider is the environment. And so really the environment that I build in my own groups is, I see myself more as a trainer and not so much as a leader or someone who is a friend or a peer, but that I have a period of time with these ladies and I don't want to waste one single minute. So I look at them and I think that God has entrusted those souls to me, and how can we make the most of our time? My single goal for each group that I start and for every lady that comes through my living room is to grow them in their personal Bible literacy. And we do that a few different ways. I encourage them and I ask them and hold them accountable to read through the Bible methodically and systematically, and do that chronologically, so that we're always building the bigger story and putting all of these, the smaller stories back into context. The second thing I ask them to do is keep a record of God's activity in their life. Typically, what this looks like is some type of journaling exercise. It doesn't have to be long, and it doesn't have to be hard, and you don't have to draw or do fancy things. It's your personal journal and what God is doing in your life. I also ask them to be steadfast in their prayer life and to grow in that area. The last thing I hold them accountable to is to memorize scripture on a weekly basis. We have a memory verse every week that we're all working on, and then that is typically the first thing that I do when I start the group, is to ask them how their reading has been, what questions they have, and let me hear the verse from last week. So sometimes that goes well and sometimes that does not. But I encourage you to keep doing it, because as you do and you hold them accountable, they will rise to the occasion and it will benefit them greatly as time goes on. So the third thing that I consider after prayer and setting the environment, one of training, I consider the discussion and what that's going to look like each and every week. So after I open up in prayer, I just read the passage that is stipulated in the materials already and read through that, and then I ask the questions that are associated with each one of those questions. I go straight down the discussion guide. I don't make anything up. It works just the way that it is, and I encourage you to follow it and just try it out on yourself or with a few other people to see how you think it might work. But it really does work just the way that it's printed. So you work down the question set, and at the end, you ask them, what it was that God was speaking to them about during the story that day, and just commit that time to prayer. The last thing is a real departure from probably other Bible studies that you have done before. The last thing I always do as part of a group is I wrap it up. And I don't mean just bring the Bible study to a close. I bring the group to a close. And there's a couple of reasons why I do that. One, it was modeled for me, and I benefited greatly by taking what was invested in me and investing that in another. The way that we've typically done Bible studies in the past is we find a Bible study that we like, and we do the 6-week, the 12-week Bible study, and then toward the end we start talking about what the next Bible study is that we want to do as a group. Well, that's great, and I've benefited so much from that in my life. But as I do the chronological Bible teaching materials, I find that it's beneficial to walk with people for a season of their life and teach them to read the Bible for themselves and to understand it in a way that they can apply to their lives. And then it's time for them to walk on their own. Just like we raise our kids to be independent people, I am raising that group up to be independent Bible learners and lifelong thinkers about who God is, what Scripture has to say, and how they can apply that to their life. It's really a gift. It's the 2 hours that they give me each week. I'm giving it back to them, and I'm asking them to invest it in another person. So I encourage you, you're going to be tempted. They will beg and they will plead for you not to stop and to just start back over or to do something different. But I encourage you to say, I love you and I commit you, and go and invest it in another person, because you're really giving those 2 hours back to them. So I hope that this has been helpful. You know, if you ever have questions, you can always contact us through the website at chronologicalbibleteaching.com.